Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai. So today we're reading from Caitanya Caritamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 9, and we're picking up from the last time I gave class, which was quite a while ago, like 3 weeks ago, because we had guest speakers in between and we had festivals in between. And so we left off with Lord Caitanya defeating the Buddhists, right? There was that incident where they tried to give him some bad food, contaminated food, and the crow came and picked it up and the plate fell on the head of the Buddhist's head, chief Buddhist's head, and knocked him out. And then the disciples were, what to do? Our guru is unconscious. And Lord Caitanya said, go and chant Hare Krishna in his ear. So then they did, and then he woke up. And then they all became devotees, started chanting Hare Krishna. So this is just one of the many incidents or events, ecstatic events that happened on Lord Chaitanya's travel to the holy places around South India. And in fact, this whole volume practically, except this, most of the volume except one chapter, the last chapter, is just covering Lord Chaitanya's tour of South India. So I'll give a little background first to bring us up to where we are, and then we'll continue with the tour. So Lord Caitanya, of course, was born in Navadvip, but the situation, the cultural or social condition in Mayapur at the time was not favorable for his spreading Krishna consciousness there. Because as it's mentioned back in chapter 7 of this Madhya Lila, most of the people there were Smarta Brahmins, and they didn't approve of actually what Lord Caitanya was trying to do. In fact, remember, they reported him to the Chandkazi and tried to get him arrested. And they tried to stop the Sankirtan movement. They broke the Mridangas. So it wasn't a favorable situation for spreading Krishna consciousness. And yet it was the mission of Lord Caitanya to spread Krishna consciousness, to propagate the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra all over. And so he had to move on to greener pastures, as sometimes it's like that, right? We go to a place, and devotees have experience of going to places and trying to start a new center or just trying to distribute books, and the situation there is so unfavorable that they just pack their bags and try another city like that. So, and also it's a fact that a sadhu is never appreciated in their hometown. Generally not, right? So because the familiarity breeds contempt, and they're like, oh, I knew him when he was a little naughty kid playing in the Ganga and teasing the girls and, you know, playing with puppies, and now he's going to tell me about, you know, how I should live my spiritual life. Who does he think he is? So there's always that kind of thing going on. So for all of these reasons, Lord Caitanya left Navadvip and he went to Puri. He made Jagannath Puri his base, and then from Puri he traveled because he wanted to spread the holy names all over India. And the devotees of Puri didn't want him to leave. Every time he talked about leaving, they would say, oh, but the Ratha Yatra festival is coming up, you need to stay for that, and then after Ratha Yatra you can go. And then he would stay for Ratha Yatra, and they'd say, oh, but Julan Yatra is coming up soon, you need to stay for that, and after that you can go. And then he would stay for that. So like this, it was going on. They kept trying to get him to stay. The next festival. And we know that in Krishna consciousness, there's always another festival coming up, right? So if you're going to stay for the festivals, you're not going to go anywhere. Sometimes you just got to go. So that's what Lord Caitanya did, is that he finally decided, no, festival or no festival, whatever, I'm leaving. And then he left. And it's interesting that although Lord Caitanya was so, he was so loved, so worshipped, he was so popular, he left alone. He didn't want to, for most of his South Indian tour, he was traveling alone. And he was very much, because Lord Caitanya is Krishna, but he came in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So during this tour, he was very much in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And he was just walking. He did the whole thing walking. From Jagannath Puri, he went all the way down to the southernmost tip of India, Cape Comorin, and then he walked up the other side. So he covered, thousands and thousands of miles, and all on foot. And he did his tour of India over the course of 2 years, from 1510 to 1512. So, and he was born in 1486. So that means he started when he was just 24 years old. So from age 24 to 26, he was traveling. And you can just imagine, I was just thinking how, Lord Chaitanya he's known for his beauty. In fact, it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam that he appears with his weapons, associates, confidential companions, and Prabhupada there in the purport says that Lord Chaitanya's weapon was his beauty. He was so attractive because he's Krishna, but he's golden. He's like very, very attractive. And then also he was young, he was 24 years old, and he was tall and beautiful and golden and effulgent. And, everybody that saw him was just like, wow, who is this sannyasi? Who is this personality? And they were really drawn to him. And that was a great, that was a good marketing strategy for, for distributing the holy names, is that people would be attracted to him because of his beauty. These people, who is this? And then they would come and hear the holy names. And of course his personality and his potency, he's Krishna, so he has unlimited transcendental potency. And then he's in the mood of Srimati Radharani, so he's in the mood of the greatest devotee of Krishna. So he's traveling not as Krishna, going to do the mission of Krishna as Krishna, but he's going in the mood of Srimati Radharani as a devotee of Krishna. And as he's traveling, he's relishing. He's just lost in ecstatic love for Krishna. He's practically not even conscious of where he's going. It's described like that he was just floating, and singing and dancing. He walked around in South India, but he didn't actually walk, he danced. He danced, and it's described that he didn't even know which direction he was going. He was just going from village to village. And through these descriptions in Madhya Lila chapters 7 to 10, we hear about the prominent places where he stopped, or any place where some specifically important, significant incident happened. But he went everywhere. He went to practically every town and village. And that was his mission, right? To spread the holy names to every town and village all over the world. So he went from village to village, and he would just stop in one place. He'd find a Brahman's home. He would stay there, or sometimes he would sleep under a tree, or, just in a temple courtyard or something like that. He would just sleep anywhere that was convenient. He would take his meals in a Brahman's home, and then he would just leave the next day. So he was really, true sannyasi, not staying too long in any one place, not getting attached, just, a rolling stone, rolling golden stone, rolling around South India, dancing in ecstasy and spreading the holy names. And it's described that his chanting of the holy names was so attractive and so potent that anybody who would hear his chanting would start chanting in ecstasy. Right? They would just be immediately smitten with pure love of God. And they would start crying tears and trembling and dancing in ecstasy. And they became like a live wire, and anybody that touched them would get, energized with pure Krishna consciousness and Krishna prema. So, wherever Lord Chaitanya went, anyone who saw him would become infused with love for Krishna. And then wherever that person went, anyone who met him would become infused with love for Krishna. And then everywhere those people went, anyone who met them, so like that it was spreading and spreading like an explosion, like a detonation that was exploding, and then the sparks of that were flying somewhere else and starting up, and then it was really the Hare Krishna explosion all around South India. And that's all described in a lot of detail in the 7th chapter. But Krishnadas Kaviraj says that that this was typical. This was just, he said, I won't explain like this in every place, but just know that in every place that Lord Chaitanya went, this is what happened, is that everybody was overwhelmed with ecstatic love, and it just kept spreading from there. So, so some of the stories that we've heard, I'll just recap a few of the main events. Is that first place he went after he left Puri was a place called Kurma Kshetra, where they have a deity of Kurma, Kurmadev. And there, something that happened was that he met a Brahmin who was also named Kurma Das, a Brahmin. And that Brahmin, he was really attracted to Lord Chaitanya, and he was a householder with his family, and he wanted to leave and just join Lord Chaitanya, just continue on the padayatra with him. And Lord Chaitanya said, don't be a crazy person, you have your responsibilities, you have people depending on you, you just stay home. And that's where he very famously said, Yari deke tare kaha Krishna upadesh, amar agyaya guru hana tara edesh. That wherever you go, whoever you meet, just teach them about Krishna. And in this way, on my order, become a guru and deliver the whole land, deliver the whole country, everybody that you meet in your geographical area. So, and that was an instruction also that Lord Chaitanya gave to everywhere he went. Because everywhere he went, people wanted to just join him because he was such a, imagine, he's God. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, in his most ecstatic state, in his most magnanimous mood of giving freely, love of God. And, how could you just, stand there and watch him walk away? It's like you want to go with him. So he was constantly telling people, no, just stay here and spread Krishna consciousness in your town, spread Krishna consciousness in your village, spread Krishna consciousness to whoever you meet in your city. So like that, he kept it going in each and every place that he went. And that place also he met a Brahmin named Vasudev who had leprosy, and he cured him of his leprosy. So, and then he walks on, he goes to a temple of Nrsingadev in Singhachala, and which is near Vishakhapatnam. Then, he would stay a night and walk on. He would bathe in the rivers, just whatever river happened to be there. In India, there's so many rivers all over the place. So he was just very, you can just imagine, he's just walking alone and dancing and kind of just blissfully floating through and eating here and sleeping there and bathing in a river and moving on. And, it's kind of like very free. Just free, the epitome of free-spiritedness, right? Lord Chaitanya. And so one day he was bathing in the river Godavari, and he sat down, after bathing he sat down and he was chanting his japa, and then he saw somebody else coming to bathe in the Godavari, and that was Ramananda Roy. He recognized that person as Ramananda Roy, and he became very ecstatic because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood of Radha, and Ramananda Rai is Vishakha, one of the chief gopis, gopi assistants of Srimati Radharani. So he immediately was just overwhelmed with ecstatic love upon seeing Ramananda Rai, and their whole chapter 8 is their conversation, very famous conversation of in which Lord Chaitanya asks the questions, and he empowers Ramananda Rai to give the answers, leading up to the most esoteric topics of Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna. So then, so then chapter 9 continues with Lord Chaitanya's visits. And so then he gets deeper and deeper into South India. And it's described that most of the people at that time, they were devotees of Lord Ramachandra. And Lord Chaitanya induced them to worship Krishna, just like he tried to do with Murari Gupta in Navadvip. But Murari Gupta was not budging from the lotus feet of Sitaram because his constitutional position is that he's Hanuman, so he can never leave the worship of Sitaram and start worshipping Radha and Krishna, although they're non-different. But in South India, he was converting all the Ram Bhaktas to become Radha Krishna Bhaktas, and that was his mission. And also he would have debates. So whoever he met, he would have these rigorous philosophical debates. Sometimes he would meet followers of Shankaracharya, the Mayavadis, or he would meet Jains or Buddhists, as we saw, or different yogis, all different philosophical leanings, and he would argue with them all and defeat them all on the basis of Vedas and Vedanta Sutra and scriptures that they accepted. So no one could defeat Lord Chaitanya. So now he's continuing with his travels. I just wanted to give a little bit of a background of what's going on here, because these verses that we're going to read today are going to be a little bit of like a transcendental tour guide. Because the Prabhupada's purports in this section are based on purports that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote. And it happened that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also did an extensive tour of South India, and he visited practically all the major places that Lord Chaitanya visited. And it was part of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's mission to establish 108 holy tirthas. If some places he established, temples and ashrams where he had his Gaudiya Math branches, and other places he established monuments. But he really wanted there to be something to, establish that this was a place that Lord Chaitanya visited, and here was the place that he spoke to Ramananda Roy. Here was the place that he, did this. Here was the place he did that. And so that was one of his important missions. And then he wanted people to visit those places. So then when he wrote his commentary on Caitanya Caritamrta, he gave, very specific directions that give a little bit of a brief description of each place. And then he said that, how to get there, basically. It's like a tour guide that here's the place, this is the significance, and here's how to get there. You go to this train station, and then you get on this rickshaw, and you travel. It's this many miles from this junction, and like that. So some of these purports are a little bit like that. So we're going to pick up here from Madhya Lila chapter 9, text 64. And I'll just read. If you have some device there that you can read the Bengali, we can do it in unison. So 64. Mahaprabhu chali aila tripati trimale chaturbhuja murti deki venkatadrya chale. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. It's Madhya Lila, chapter 9, text 64 we're on. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next arrived at Tirupati and Tirumala, where he saw a four-handed deity. Then he proceeded towards Venkata Hill. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has actually described the chronological order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's visit. The Tirupati temple is sometimes called Tirupatura. It is situated on the northern side of Arcot in the district of Chandragiri. It is a famous holy place of pilgrimage. In pursuance of his name, Venkateshvara, the four-handed Lord Vishnu, the deity of Balaji, with his potencies named Shri and Bhu, is located on Venkata Hill, about 8 miles from Tirupati. This Venkateshvara deity is in the form of Lord Vishnu, and the place where he is situated is known as Venkata Kshetra. There are many temples in southern India, but this Balaji temple is especially opulent. A great fair is held there in the month of Ashvina, September, October. There is a railway station called Tirupati on the Southern Railway. Nimna Tirupati is located in the valley of Venkata Hill. There are several temples there also, among which are those of Govindaraj and Lord Ramachandra. So this temple of Balaji is a very famous temple, very opulent temple. So it's, I think it's one of the wealthiest temples in India, right? A lot of people go there and give donations to Balaji. People go there and they shave their heads and donate their hair to Balaji. That's like a tradition, right? I have friends that went there and shaved up. One of my friends came back shaved, and I was like, what happened? She said, I gave my hair to Balaji. I was like, okay. So, Lalita Sundar, are you from South India? Would you like to tell us about Balaji a little bit? Is there a mic? Additional mic? Here, take this one. Because I've never been to South India. I've been to Bangalore and a few places.
Just on your topic about giving hair to Balaji, I think that's like an act of renunciation. Like, because people, what I have heard since I'm a child is like, people really think their recognition as having beautiful hair. So,
can you tell us a little bit about the deity, Balaji, and any pastime related to him or the temple?
I cannot think of top of my head. At least my home deity is Lord Balaji. And And my experience has been, I can share just my realization
Yes,
rather
please.
than a story. So when every time we go to Balaji temple, it's very crowded. Like people are pushing each other and it's too crowded. But once we enter into the sanctorium, you forget all about it. It's like just you're there for a few seconds, but it feels so blissful and peaceful just to be standing in front of the Lord.
Wow.
That has been my realization since I'm a child. Like, I mean, as long as we are going in the queue, it feels so very frustrating experience. But you forget everything once you enter the sanctorium. So it's a very blissful and the darshan is just for few seconds, not even a minute. You just get darshan for few seconds. But just the experience is very ecstatic. So it feels like it's just worth all the experience we go through.
Wow. Nice. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's so nice to hear your personal experience. I heard that the lines are long. Sometimes you have to wait like 12 hours in the line or something, right? Yeah. Yeah. With thousands and thousands of people lining up to see Balaji for that 3 seconds, right? For that 3 seconds, and it's all worthwhile. It just makes me think of how, we struggle so much in this lifetime, to try to advance in Krishna consciousness, and then we go back home, back to Godhead. It's like, it reminds me of Indradimna Swami. One time Prabhupada was coming, and then he was waiting for Prabhupada at the airport, and Prabhupada finally came, and then somehow his bag got left behind at the airport, misplaced his suitcase. And so all the devotees went with Prabhupada to the temple. And Indradimna Swami, I think then he wasn't a sannyasi. Might have been, can't remember. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But he stayed back, and he was waiting for the suitcase, and it took a long time. He had to deal with all these officials, and then they had to check it and open it, and went through all of his stuff, and then it was like late at night when he got back to the temple, and so he said, and he was just in his mind the whole time. He was thinking, Prabhupada's going to get to the temple. He's going to give the welcome address. There's going to be the most ecstatic kirtan in the world. We've been preparing for this moment for like months that Prabhupada's coming, and then after there's going to be a huge feast, like the best feast ever, unprecedented prasadam, and so he's like waiting at the airport and struggling and going through all this like bureaucracy and stuff, trying to get things, and then finally gets his suitcase. He gets there. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and he's carrying the suitcase up the stairs, and it's like clonk, clonk. He's so tired. He's so frustrated. Hasn't eaten, and he asks somebody on the way up the stairs. He meets a devotee, and it says, "Is there any prasadam left?" And they said, "Oh, the feast was amazing." It was so. They're telling him all about the preps. And he's like, "But is there any left?" He said, "Oh, actually, I think it all got finished," and so there was no prasadam. He was just about to cry, And then he goes into Prabhupada's room. He knocks on the door. Everything's quiet because it's late at night. And he goes in there and he brings in the suitcase and he pays his dandavats on the floor there at Prabhupada's feet. And Prabhupada just goes, whack! And slaps. He's lying on the floor, dandavats right in front of Prabhupada. His whole body is just on the floor. And Prabhupada whacks him really hard on the back, and he wasn't expecting that, and it was a lot harder than he said. He was a lot harder than he thought. Prabhupada is a slight, small, elderly man was capable of. He didn't know Prabhupada was able to give such a wallop. He whacked him hard, and Jiddu Swami was just like, he didn't know what hit him yet. And then he sat up and he looked at Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said that in this material world, everything is so difficult. And then Indradimna Swami was just like, he was just like crying, and he was so emotional after all the trauma he'd been through. And then Prabhupada said, "But when you get back home, back to Godhead, everything will be easy." Easy. Everything will be easy. So it's kind of like that. It's like the wait, you wait. It's so difficult, it's like you're standing and it's frustrating. People are pushing, and maybe it's hot, maybe it's cold, maybe it's raining, It's like you're enduring the elements. But then you get there in front of Balaji and it's like, wow, the struggle was all worthwhile. It's kind of like a little microcosm of how we struggle over lifetimes and lifetimes in the material world, trying to find the way out of this maze that we're in, right? Trying to find the true happiness that the soul is hankering for, and trying to find the. So that was 964. Yeah. Okay, so let's go on here. Text 65. Tripati Asiya Kaila Sri Rama Durashan Raghunatha Age Kaila Pranamastabana. After arriving at Tirupati, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Ramachandra. He offered his prayers and obeisances before Lord Ramachandra, the descendant of King Raghu. Just wondering if he asked Lord Ramachandra, please forgive me for converting all of your bhaktas into Krishna bhaktas. Text 66. Swaprabhave loka sabar karana vismaya pana nirsinghe aila prabhudaya maya. Everywhere Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, his influence astonished everyone. He next arrived at the temple of Pana Nirsingha. The Lord is so merciful. Purport. Pana Nirsingha, or Panakala Narasingha, is located in the district of Krishna, in the hills known as Mangalagiri, about 7 miles from a city known as Vijayavada. One must climb 600 steps to reach the temple. It is said that when the Lord is offered food with syrup here, he does not take more than half. Within this temple is a conch shell presented by the late king of Tanjore, and it is said that this shell was used by Lord Krishna himself. Wow. During the month of March, a great fair takes place in this temple. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is even recommending the best time of year to visit. If you go in March, there'll be a big fair going on. So, yeah. This Pana Nirsingha, they serve him a syrup, which is like a jaggery, boiled in water, and they make a syrup. And actually the deity, I was looking into this, I was curious about this deity, and the deity is only basically the head of the Nrsingadev, no body, just the head, and with a very big open mouth, like 15-inch open wide mouth. And then the way that they worship him is that they feed him this syrup, and they literally pour the syrup into his mouth. And then they'll just it said that while they're pouring, they're hearing a sound. There's a sound like like swallowing sound. And then they keep on pouring and pouring until the swallowing sound stops, and then they stop pouring. And it says here that he drinks, he doesn't take more than half. So he leaves the rest for the devotees. But then after pouring, there's no syrup, like on the floor or something. It's gone. Yeah. And they said that even though they're always pouring the sweet syrup, there's no ants somehow. Anywhere in the temple, you won't see a single ant. Anyways, yeah, some mystical thing that Lord Nrsingadev does there in this temple. Okay, text 67. Nrsinghe pranati stuti prema veshe kaila prabhura prabhave loka chamatkara haila. In great ecstatic love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered obeisances and prayers unto Lord Nrsimha. The people were astonished to see Lord Chaitanya's influence. You know, it's like we can get a little tiny little fraction of a glimpse of this by, you know, when a very great soul comes to visit, you know, comes here to Dallas to visit the temple, like when Radhanath Swami comes, or, you know, it's like you can see the influence that, you know, hundreds of devotees come and everybody's dancing in ecstasy, and everybody's, you know, like on a typical day you'll get, you know, maybe 20, 30, if you get 40 people coming to Bhagavatam class, it's nice, you know. On the day like that, it's like people are flocking from all over, and you know, if class goes a little long, people are walking out. But, you know, when Radhanath Swami gives class, he can talk for 3 hours and everybody's like, you know, nothing else to do, nowhere else to go. So we get a little bit of a feeling for how great personalities have this influence that they can just, you know, infuse the audience with a taste, you know, with attraction for the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, for kirtan, for, you know, everything in Krishna consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya had, a huge influence. It said it was an astonishing influence. And I'm sure that in these temples, many great personalities would visit. So they were used to great personalities visiting and seeing, people coming with all their followers and attracting a big crowd and doing ecstatic kirtans, but nothing on the level of Lord Chaitanya himself, and Supreme Personality of Godhead rolling in and taking darshan at your temple and seeing, how that's affecting people. And he comes in chanting, doing kirtan, and everybody, who's pujaris on the altar, the women making the garlands, the people packing peanuts, the whatever they're doing, the cooks in the kitchen, the ordinary people just kind of coming in and making some prayers, please cure my grandfather or whatever. As soon as Lord Chaitanya walks in the temple, everybody's just like, Hare Krishna, dancing in ecstasy, tears coming down their cheeks, and trembling and getting addicted to the Hare Krishna mantra and just wanting to go out and share it with the world. So like that. You can imagine the scene. Text 68. Shiva Kanchi Asya Kaila Shiva Darashana Prabhave Vaishnava Kaila Sabha Shaiva Gana. Arriving at Shiva Kanchi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the deity of Lord Shiva. By his influence, he converted all the devotees of Lord Shiva into Vaishnavas. Purport. Shiva Kanchi is also known as Kanchipuram, or the Benares of southern India. In Shiva Kanchi, there are hundreds of temples, including symbolic representatives of Lord Shiva, and one of these temples is said to be very, very old. So, Benares, or now called Varanasi, is a famous place of the worship of Lord Shiva, worshippers of Lord Shiva. And this Shiva Kanchi appears to be very famous also, the Benares of South India. So, yeah. It's interesting that Lord Chaitanya, although Lord Shiva is a demigod, but Lord Chaitanya would go and he would worship Lord Shiva. He would pay his respects to Lord Shiva as the greatest Vaishnava and pray to Lord Shiva for his blessings to become a pure devotee of Radha and Krishna, because Lord Chaitanya came in the mood of a devotee. So as devotees, we don't disrespect the demigods, although our prime object of worship is Krishna, Radha Kala Chanji. But we don't disregard or disrespect the demigods. We offer all respects to the demigods as great servants of Krishna. We can offer our obeisances to them. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhuvya evacha patitanam pavanivyo vaishnavevyo namo namaha, and pray to them to bless us to be able to attain pure love for Krishna and pure devotion. So Lord Chaitanya taught us by his example. And although he honored Lord Shiva, but similarly, in the same way that he honored Lord Ramachandra, but converted all of his followers to Krishna Bhaktas, he did the same with Lord Shiva's devotees. He made them all Vaishnavas. Text 69. Vishnu Kanchi Asi Dekila Lakshmi Narayana Pranama Kariya Kaila Bahutastavana. The Lord then visited a holy place known as Vishnu Kanchi. There he saw the Lakshmi Narayan deities, and he offered his respects and many prayers to please them. Purport. Vishnu Kanchi is situated about 5 miles away from Kanchipuram. It is here that Lord Varadaraj, another form of Lord Vishnu, resides. There is also a big lake known as Ananta Sarovara. There's a little more of this, about this place. Prema Veshe Nritya Gita Bahuta Karila Dina Duira Hiloke Krishna Bhakta Kaila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Vishnu Kanchi for 2 days, he danced and performed kirtan in ecstasy. When all the people saw him, they were converted into devotees of Lord Krishna. So even the devotees of Lord Vishnu were not safe. Because it said that in Lord Shiva temple, he made them all Vaishnavas, which could be roughly interpreted as devotees of Lord Vishnu, right? Literally, a Vaishnava means a devotee of Lord Vishnu. But even the devotees of Lord Vishnu, he converted into Krishna bhaktas. He's like, forget about Vishnu, it's Krishna. Because again, he's in the mood of Radha. And the gopis in Vrindavan, remember when Krishna disappeared and they were looking for him all over Vrindavan. And they were searching, and then Krishna was hiding, but they were catching up. So then Krishna, he manifests the form of Lord Vishnu with 4 arms, and he's standing there in the forest. And as the gopis came across this Lord Vishnu standing there, and they paid their obeisances, and they circumambulated him and offered their respects. And then they said, Lord Vishnu, did you happen to see which way Krishna went? We're looking for him. And then he was like, I don't know. And they're like, all right, whatever, we're going. And they just continued their search for Krishna. Was that? I'm not sure. What's that? Oh, yeah. Then Srimati Radha. Yeah, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. And then Lord Vishnu, when Lord Vishnu when Krishna in the form of Lord Vishnu saw Srimati Radharani, then, he couldn't, Krishna was like, he couldn't hold his disguise, and then, yeah. So that's the mood of the gopis. So because Lord Chaitanya is in the mood of the gopis, and that's specifically what he came to give, right? That when Krishna wound up his pastimes and went back to Goloka, then after some time he saw that everybody was just worshipping the Lord Vishnu in the mood of awe and reverence. And then he thought, oh no, this is terrible. He said, if they continue just worshipping Lord Vishnu, or even, worshipping me, but in the mode of worship of Lakshmi Narayan, then it's not going to work. They're not going to make it to Goloka, because in Goloka Vrindavan, there's no awe and reverence for Radha and Krishna. It's all just sweetness and love. There's not that formality of worship. Nobody's offering a arti and incense and, like that. Nobody's singing Vishnu Sahasranam there in Goloka. They're all just like, hey, Krishna, what's taking you so long? It's time to go out and play. Come on. Right? Or the gopis are like, Krishna, I am not talking to you. You are late. Just get out of here. So, yeah, they're very, very familiar and just very sweet, loving, ecstatic exchanges there in Goloka. So when Krishna sees that everybody's worshiping him but in the wrong mood, he says, I need to go and fix that. And so he comes as Lord Chaitanya to teach the mood for worshiping Krishna, a mood of pure love, devoid of any conception of awe and reverence. Right? We learn that in Kartik, in the Damodarastikam. We hear about how it said that, does it say that there's that one prayer? What's the verse that says that it's free from all conceptions of awe and reverence? You remember? I'm blanking out on it. Trishta? No, it's in the Damodarastika prayers. We're too long away. We're too far from Kartik right now. Anyways, there it's the author of the prayers is praying that please let me just worship. I have no desire for liberation or anything. I just want to worship, to see your form of Bala Gopal in Vrindavan, and love you without any feelings of awe and reverence. And that's his prayer, because that's the mood of Krishna in Vrindavan. That's the mood that pleases him. So this is what Lord Chaitanya gave. He tried to impart unto people this mood, and not the mood of worshipping Vishnu and with awe and reverence, but worshipping Krishna with love and sweetness. Okay, we'll go on. Text 71. Tirumalaya deki gela trikala hastistane Mahadeva deki tanra karila praname. After visiting Trimalaya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Trikala Hasti. There he saw Lord Shiva and offered him all respects and obeisances. Purport: Trikala Hasti, or Sri Kala Hasti, is situated about 22 miles east of Tirupati. On its western side is a river known as Suvarna Mukhi. The temple of Trikala Hasti is located on the southern side of the river. The place is generally known as Sri Kalahasti or Kalahasti, and is famous for its temple of Lord Shiva. There he is called Vayu Linga Shiva. Text 72. Pakshitirtha Deki Kaila Shiva Darashane Ridha Kola Tirte Tabe Karila Gamana. At Pakshitirtha, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Shiva. Then he went to the Vridha Kola place of pilgrimage. Purport. Pakshitirtha, also called Tirukadi Kundam, is located 9 miles southeast of Chimlipat. It has a 500-foot elevation and is situated in a chain of hills known as Vedagiri or Vedachalam. There is a temple of Lord Shiva there, and the deity is known as Vedagirishvara. 2 birds come there daily to receive food from the temple priest, and it is claimed that they have been coming since time immemorial. Wow. I wonder who those birds are, right? Some very exalted personalities in the form of birds that come every day to take prasadam. Sometimes we get some, there's some stories. There's a devotee named Janananda Goswami. His Holiness Janananda Goswami. And he wrote a small book that's called Animals in Krishna Consciousness. And in the book he talks about different animals that that shows some exceptional signs of devotion for Krishna. Yeah. And even in Caitanya Charitamrta, we have the pastime of Shivananda Sain's dog that would accompany the kirtan and would be in ecstasy during kirtans and wouldn't leave the association of devotees. And Shivananda Sain even paid double the price to get the boatman to induce the boatman to allow the dog on the boat and take him across the river so that he could stay with the devotees. And then one day the dog went missing. They couldn't find the dog anywhere. Shivananda Sain stayed up all night. He sent out search parties looking for the dog. They couldn't find the dog at all. And then next day they had to move on to the next place because they were walking from Navadvip down to Puri for the Rath Yatra festival. And then, it was with a heavy heart that Shivananda Sain proceeded without the dog. But then when they got to Puri, they saw that the dog was sitting there at the lotus feet of Lord Caitanya, and Lord Caitanya was eating a dab, and he was scooping out this soft coconut from inside, and he was tossing it to the dog, and the dog was catching it with his mouth like that and eating it right from Lord Chaitanya's hand. And Lord Chaitanya was making him, Lord Chaitanya was making him chant Hare Krishna, and the dog would be like, Hare Krishna. And then Lord Chaitanya would reward him by throwing the coconut. like we get a dog to beg or something and then throw a dog biscuit. So like that. And then right in front of all the devotees were so happy to see, the dog was there and getting the mercy, more mercy than them because he got there first. And then right in front of their very eyes, they saw the dog just leave his body and this flower airplane come and take him back to the spiritual world. So, so these exceptional animals can be very Krishna conscious and attain the highest destination. So Janananda Swami, he talks about how he was in Malaysia and there was a cow that would come, and every day she would walk into the every day during Bhagavatam class, at the start of the class while the speaker was singing Jai Radha Madhava, this cow would show up, and she would, it was an open kind of temple structure, at least the doors would be open, and this cow would just walk in and walk right into the temple room and sit down in the back of the temple and just sit there for the duration of the Bhagavatam class. And when the Bhagavatam class was over, then she would stand up, the devotees would give her some prasadam, and she would walk out. And then next day, Bhagavatam class, same thing. She would come in, sit down very peacefully, and listen. And every day, that cow would do the same thing. Like that. So, I remember in Mayapur, when I was in Mayapur, there was one dog too. They named the dog Harinam. And every day this dog it was just a street dog. I mean, just a street dog. We don't know who that dog was, but she wasn't owned by anyone. And she would come, or he, I can't remember. But the dog would come every day at 3:30 when the Harinam would start, and all the devotees would assemble. They'd get the deities of Gaurnitai from Srila Prabhupada's Bhajan Kutir and put them on the cart, and then they would drag the cart to over in front of the long building where they would all meet. Devotees would assemble, start Harinam, and then they would go to different places. Sometimes they'd go locally, sometimes they would get on a boat and go to villages and things like that. So it was every day Harinam. And every day the dog was sitting there at 3:30, just sitting there, sometimes the first one there and waiting for the devotees to assemble. And then it would accompany the devotees on the Harinam and then come back and then go do its stuff, whatever, go away. And then they wouldn't see the dog until next day, 3:30. So yeah, so this is a thing. There are some animals, some great personalities in the form of animals that have their spiritual sadhana. They come every day and take part in the activities of bhakti. We have a cat here in Dallas, right? There's one particular cat that really likes coming inside the temple, right? And she comes and she sits there on the chair there where Bhagavananda Prabhu usually sits chanting his japa. So. Oh, really? Uh-huh. Who knows who that cat was, right? If nothing else, at least maybe she was catching the mice. She's waiting for the offering. And then if any mice come and sniff out the offering, she scares them away. She's doing a service. I'm sure that cat's in the spiritual world right now. By the merciful glance of Shishi Radhikala Chanji Gornitai. Okay, so I think I'll just stop here. We've heard a little bit about Lord Chaitanya's pilgrimages, and this is going to continue. He'll pick up next Sunday. So any questions or comments? Yes, Mother Kunti.
Thank you, and thank you for a beautiful
did you find
class. Yeah. So there's two that could be about. Are you talking about the one that shuns on reverence, or okay? Because see, here's verse 3. If I can get it. Giving me the Sanskrit. Those super excellent pastimes of Lord Krishna's babyhood, drown the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy. To the devotees who are attracted only to the majestic aspect of Narayan and Vaikuntha, the Lord herein reveals, I am conquered and overwhelmed by pure loving devotion. To the Supreme Lord Damodar, my obeisance is hundreds and hundreds of times. So are you talking about that one?
I think I was thinking of that one. Is there another one? Go ahead and read the other one.
There's one right behind it. O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for liberation, nor eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My only prayer is that your childhood pastimes may constantly appear in my mind. O Lord, I do not even want to know your feature, Paramatma. I simply wish that your childhood pastimes may ever be enacted in my heart. Which one were you?
Thank you. I think both of them. The first one shows the Lord's perspective, right? That I am not. What was that last line of that I am pleased only with love and devotion.
Oh yeah, I'm conquered and overwhelmed by pure loving devotion.
Yes, and he's saying that specifically. He's informing those who are worshiping his majestic feature of Narayan and Vaikuntha that this is not how to conquer me. I'm conquered only by love and devotion. And then the next verse, the devotee is saying, please, I have no desire for, any other kind of relationship with you. I
do not pray to you for liberation or eternal life in Vaikuntha.
I don't want to go to Vaikuntha and worship you in awe and reverence. I just want this form of Balagopal to be forever in my heart and to love you in that form. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, back to the Balaji story. I was fortunate to have a darshan of Balaji Venkata 2001.
Nice. Okay,
and
tell us about
Jai
it.
Pataka Swami was telling the story. You mentioned that that's the most opulent temple in India.
Mm-hmm.
So the story behind that is that when he was getting married, Krishna, Balaji, he wanted to make, like in India is the weddings are really opulent.
Uh-huh.
So he borrowed the money from Kuvera.
Oh.
And then he said, "Don't worry, my devotees will give it back to you." So that's why everybody going there, they giving donations, and that's how they paying off the debt to Kuvera.
Okay.
That's the short story. Then I Google it, and I don't have glasses. If someone can read a little bit about that, if you want.
Who wants to read
It's a
it?
short one.
Jaishnav, would you like to read there from Prabhu's phone? Since you don't need glasses yet.
According to Hindu mythology, the wedding story of Balaji, also known as Lord Venkateshwara, is about his marriage to Princess Padmavati, where he took the form of a fortune teller to win her heart, eventually marrying her with the blessings of her father, King Akash Raj, after borrowing a large sum from Kuvera, the god of wealth, to fund the grand ceremony. This marriage is celebrated at the Tirumala Venkateshwara temple in Andhra Pradesh, India. Key points of the story. The bride. Padmavati, a princess known for her beauty and devotion, was destined to marry Lord Vishnu's incarnation as Srinivas Balaji, the fortune teller. To learn of Padmavati's feelings, Balaji disguised himself as a fortune teller and visited the princess' palace when he revealed her true love for him. The proposal. After confirming Padmavati's affection, Balaji, through the sage Bakula Devi, approached King Akash Raj and formally requested his daughter's hand in marriage, the loan from Kumera. To finance the lavish wedding, Balaji borrowed a large sum of money from Kubera, the god of wealth, which is believed to be the reason why devotees still donate to the Tirumala temple to help repay this debt. The wedding ceremony. The marriage was celebrated with great grandeur at the Kalyana Venkateshwara temple in Narayana Vanam, with all the gods and goddesses in attendance.
Wow. What a wedding. Thank you. Thanks for sharing, and thank you for reading, Jaishnav. So the devotees are helping Lord Balaji pay off his debt to Kuvera. It's amazing how, although, the Lord is the Lord, and he actually possesses all opulences, right? He's Bhagavan. There's nothing that's not his. But he enacts these wonderful pastimes just to delight the devotees and engage the devotees in his service. Yes, Abhay Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful class. You were mentioning earlier on the, I guess it was mentioned at different points where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was converting the different types of faiths or different deities that they follow to Radha Krishna. So how can we understand that, like, from my understanding, we are all eternal jivas, right, that have a personality that exists in the spiritual world. We have a role, we have a personality, and we're somebody.
Yeah.
So is it that when we're preaching or when we're following the process of Krishna consciousness, you're just uncovering your original true self originally, and you'll be attracted whichever rasa that is or whatever that falls into? So whether you're in the Lakshmi you're like, you live in Vaikuntha, and so that's the kind of form you'll be attracted to. Like, how can we understand that?
Yeah. He's saying that everybody has their constitutional relationship with Krishna, and it may be that someone's eternal position is, as a servant of Lakshmi Narayan in Vaikuntha. So then, in that case, maybe it wouldn't be so appropriate to convert them to worshipping Radha and Krishna with the Vrindavan mood, because that's not their eternal mood. Okay? That's your question?
Yeah, sort of. How can we understand it a little better?
How to understand, yeah. So, two things. One thing is that Lord Chaitanya wanted to establish that the worship of Radha and Krishna is the highest. The other thing is that the worship of Radha and Krishna is in the context of what you're asking, like, in terms of uncovering or rediscovering our original constitutional position, we're safest worshiping Radha and Krishna, because Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and within him are all incarnations, all avatars, everything. He's the absolute truth. Everything is included within Krishna. So, and all Shaktis, all divine feminine forms are included in Srimati Radharani. So, if we worship Radha and Krishna, then we're simultaneously, automatically, worshiping Lakshmi Narayan, worshiping, whatever form, worshiping Lakshmi Nrsimha, worshiping Sita Ram, and everyone. So it's kind of like, like Prabhupada would always say, watering the root of the tree. All the leaves, so all the incarnations will be worshipped. All the demigods will be worshipped. Everyone is worshipped by worshipping Radha and Krishna. Whereas if we focus on worshipping Sita Ram, then we're not necessarily worshipping Radha and Krishna, right? So if it turns out that our constitutional position is in Vrindavan with Radha and Krishna, then we might have to take birth again to learn how to worship, to focus on Radha and Krishna as our worshipable deity and object of love. So since we don't know what our constitutional position is, then the best thing is, don't neglect anyone. You worship Radha and Krishna, because then you're worshiping everyone. And then by the mercy of Radha and Krishna, then whoever we are eternally will be revealed.
I guess a secondary question. So yesterday we were at Bhakti Riksha, and we were going over the the cosmos and the Golok Vrindavan, that whole picture, the visual of material creation, Vaikuntha, Golok Vrindavan.
Yeah.
And then so somebody asked the question about what if we make it to Vaikuntha? Our goal was Golok Vrindavan, and we were trying to go up, but we somehow got to Vaikuntha, and I didn't have an answer, we didn't have a proper answer, just because I've wondered the same thing myself. Like, is it that you can traverse the spiritual planets, or is it kind of once you go there, that was where you're meant to be, and there's no such thing as accidentally getting there? Or I guess how can we understand that?
Yeah, I mean, we have in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, we have the journey of Gopakumar, and he goes all over the place. He goes to the heavenly planets, he goes to Vaikuntha planets, and finally he goes to Goloka. So, what I've heard that Sanatana Goswami, who's the author of Brihat Bhagavatamrita, is trying to, because Gopakumar is a fictional character. What I've heard is that Sanatana Goswami is trying to teach us about that hierarchical structure of the universe, the different moods on different planets, and to establish that Goloka Vrindavan is the highest ultimate goal. And that, so Gopakumar goes to Vaikuntha, and but his constitutional position is that he's a cowherd boy in Goloka. So he goes there, and when he sees Lord Narayan, then he starts running towards him to give him a big hug, because that's what cowherd boys do. They just hug Krishna. Hey, Gopal! And they run to him and give him a big hug and punch him on the arm, right? So when the residents of Vaikuntha see this, strange-looking person, just, who doesn't have 4 arms and is just wearing a dhoti and a turban and, carrying a musical instrument of some form or whatever, running towards Lord Vishnu, they're like, "What are you doing?" And they stop him and they restrain him. They said, "You can't just act like this in Vaikuntha. You should be praying, like that." And then he's like, "Oh, but that's not me, And they said, "Well, this probably isn't the place for you then. You probably need to be in Goloka Vrindavan." So, there's one part of Nectar Devotion where Prabhupada says that if someone goes to Vaikuntha, that from Vaikuntha you can be promoted to Goloka Vrindavan if you get there and you realize that it's not really your place, and that you don't have to come all the way down to earth. Then there's another, I think B.B. Govinda Maharaj was giving class during the Kirtan 50, and he said that there was someone was going on the way to Vaikuntha, they were ascending somehow. They were ascending to the spiritual world, and some Vaikuntha-vasis were passing by, and they met somewhere, mid-journey, and there was a conversation that took place in which that soul said, they said, "Where are you going?" And they said that, "Well, I want to go to Goloka Vrindavan. Can you help me?" And then they said, "Well, there's nothing we can do for you. If you want to go to Goloka, then you have to go back down to the earth and hear Srimad Bhagavatam." Because Srimad Bhagavatam has all the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. It's very much prominent. And he said, and then you'll understand the mood of Goloka. And you'll be able to develop your attachment to the associates, Krishna's eternal associates in Goloka, like the gopis, the cowherd boys, Madhya Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj. And you'll be able to follow in their footsteps and serve Krishna in a similar, with a similar mood. And then you can go to Goloka. Lalita Sundari. Sorry, was that okay?
That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for the nice class, Mataji. Especially I like the beginning part where you give a brief summary, put everything in context. My question is, you mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to every town and village in South India to establish Harinam Sankirtan. So I'm just curious because I'm from South India, and until I came to ISKCON and somebody, even when I looked at the DT, until explained to me who is Chaitanya Prabhu, I didn't know who is Chaitanya, and it's true for anybody in South India. So when he so thoroughly established in every town and village, is there any historical account like where everything was lost?
Yeah. She's saying that Lord Chaitanya traveled to every town and village in South India, but she's from South India and she never heard of Lord Chaitanya growing up. And so how did Lord Chaitanya's legacy become lost? So yeah, we see that even time, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa, that in due course of time disciplic successions become broken and the knowledge becomes lost, becomes nashta, means destroyed. And that happened even in Lord Chaitanya's birthplace, right? In Navadvip Dham. By the time of the appearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there were these 13 Apasampradayas, and there were all these deviant groups, and they had concocted all kinds of like ridiculous systems of so-called religion. Like there was this one called the Gauranagaris or something like that. Gauranga Nagaris, where they said, oh, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, so that Krishna performs the Rasa Leela, so they were worshipping Krishna, Lord Chaitanya with gopis, doing Rasa Leela, like Lord Chaitanya with gopis. He's a sannyasi, so that was just total Rasa Basa. And and the whole thing became just very perverse and corrupted. But it's just the influence of time and the modes of material nature and people having anarthas and, just corrupting things and gradually changing things. And so if that happened even in the Lord's birthplace, then, what to speak in other places where he just spent a night or 3 days. So his influence was strong at the time, but Kali Yuga is also very strong. And if people stopped chanting Hare Krishna or, created some deviant philosophy, then very quickly, Maya can set in and disrupt everything. Go ahead. Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about how during his time the Gaudiya Vaishnavism had such a bad reputation. Like nobody, basically they were all just considered sentimentalists, and that there was no philosophical basis. They didn't study. It was just a mess. It was just like so far gone from what Lord Chaitanya actually taught. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur worked so hard to reestablish the reputation of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, to regain respect for it in the eyes of, religious people of the time. And he made a lot of progress. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, of course, took up the work. And that's why, he went around making these monuments. But I think in some places the monuments are very small. Like when we went to India a couple of years ago, and we have a friend who lives, he's from Cuttack, which is just a little bit north of Jagannath Puri. And so we spent a night in near his family home. And his father took us to this place where Lord Chaitanya went. And it's like an island, a small island in the middle of a river. And we had to get on these super rickety little, Jopati's laughing because she was on this trip. We got on these little these wooden boats that were like that wide. And they were so tippy. Everybody was like, we thought we were going to we were sure we were going to like tip. Anyways, what's that? And and then the boatman just had a stick and he was, taking us across. So we get to this small island, and then there was just a little shrine, there's just this little like concrete shrine. And then you go there and there's footprints of Lord Chaitanya, like very visible, very clear, these big footprints because Lord Chaitanya had big feet. And then we did kirtan out there on that island, and we were circumambulating. It was really ecstatic, right? We had like one of the most ecstatic kirtans out there. And so some of the monuments are very small and obscure and not well known. So that could be also, Bhaktisiddhanta, he was at the time, I guess his funding and his money and manpower was limited, so he was just doing something, whatever he could. And then also, even after, the passing away of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the whole Gaudiya Math just dissipated. It branched off into little sects, and, they lost their, they became like twigs separated from the bundle, so they kind of became weak.